Well, I guess we'll go listen to the OG neocon, the first neocon, the one neocon. This is John Bolton. I'm sure everybody is familiar with John Bolton. He is old as shit now. But he is basically one of the like the most warmongering neocons that has ever existed. He was there for Iraq. Uh, there's never been a war that he hasn't been ready to jump in head first. He's always out there doing the propaganda ring every single time he goes from station to station, talking about we got to go to war. So this one, I guess, kind of caught my eye. This is from France 24 English. This is 21 hours ago. Um, and this one is called Trump Could Be Ready to Stop the War at Almost Any Moment, ex-advisor John Bolton says. Um, this kind of caught my eye because as someone who, like, since John Bolton is someone who loves war, like, he would have sex with war if he could. um, he, the fact that he's saying that it could be over at almost any moment tells me one thing probably that the neocon establishment and the maybe State Department like foreign policy consensus, like bipartisan foreign policy consensus, does not think the war is going very good, if I had to estimate. Um, so because otherwise, like we haven't accomplished anything yet, right? So like, why would the war be almost over at any point? They still have they still have hundreds of thousands of drones. They still have thousands upon like thousands, I would probably guess, of missiles, of ballistic missiles. Um, we got their navy. Way to go. Iran's notorious navy has been taken out. Um, but they still have the capability to produce nukes and stuff. So I don't know. This reads to me as like an admission of failure. But I guess we'll see what John Bolton actually has to say. That's just my initial guesses. I like that vibe. Tete a tete.
Hello and welcome to Tete a Tete, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest is John Bolton. He served as National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration. Since leaving his position in 2019, he has become a fierce Trump critic. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Bolton.
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be with you.
During the first Trump administration, you strongly advocated regime change in Iran, but it seemed President Trump then refused to go ahead. Are you satisfied he has now decided to do it alongside Israel?
Oh yeah. This is what he's always wanted. This dude has literally wanted this shit for 40 fucking years, man. I swear to God. Back when he was only 86 instead of 126 like he is now. He has been wanting regime change in Iran for ever.
Well, it's not clear exactly what he's decided to do. He has certainly said, particularly at the early stages of the military activity, that regime change was a goal, but his advisors have said many other things as well. I think it's clear that the Israeli goal is regime change. So we'll have to see
I
how it
don't think
turns
so.
out. I think the military
I think they want a collapsed state.
operations so far have been effective in doing what they need to do to help create the conditions for regime change, destroying the Revolutionary
Have they?
Guard's capabilities and its ability to threaten its neighbors and really countries around the world, and also threaten its own citizens. And I think the leadership in Iran has been decidedly reduced, but I don't think we've done enough to help the opposition. As the regime comes under pressure and as its ability to repress the people in Iran especially become clear.
Sorry, I want to show one thing. If X, the Everything app, is capable of loading this. Okay, if not, I'll just go back to Google. I wonder if I can pull this. No, I hate how this works. I wanted to just zoom in on it or whatever, but whatever. You see these two things? This is like, I think this is as of March 19th, so 2 days ago. These are the green line is the drone strikes by Iran over time. this being the beginning of the war. The red line is the ballistic missile strikes over time, um, or like how many shots they're firing or whatever. Uh, I assume per day. Yeah, per day. And you can see it did go down significantly at first for a combination of reasons. It it was obviously they want to start with like a big show of force or whatever, so that's one thing. But then also degradation, right? They certainly have been degraded over time, but then they started going up higher and higher. That just says low point day 6. So now as time goes on, they're actually ramping up how much their drone strikes are coming out. I would guess that's because they're getting the drones they're opening up any of the entrances and exits for like where they store these drones under the mountains and stuff. Um, like they're excavating them, I would guess. So they're undoing some of that degradation, but also I just think that they're strategically trying to ramp up the pressure like more and more over time. So just for people who are unaware, that's the actual, the actual condition of Iran seems to be that they're improving or increasing the amount of deterrence they have over time, or like the amount of ballistic missiles and stuff that they're shooting over time, not the other way around. But we'll go back a little bit and see what else. I'm sure truthful things he has to say.
Countries around the world and also threaten its own citizens. And I think the leadership in Iran has been decidedly reduced, but I don't think we've done enough to help the opposition. As the regime comes under pressure and as its ability to repress the people in Iran especially become clear, there will be splits in the regime at the top, and exploiting those divisions and disagreements is critical to pulling the regime apart and seeing it collapse. The opposition can work with leaders in the regime who don't.
He's so stupid. He's so stupid. I am sorry, but number one, we're doing an air campaign, and air campaigns have never in the history of the entire universe led to regime change. It has never once happened, okay? The only thing that could lead to regime change would be boots on the ground. That's number one. But number two, there is no opposition. Like, what opposition are they talking about? If they're talking about the people, like, on the ground who, like, oppose the regime or whatever, they all fell in line as soon as they realized that America was just going to bomb the shit out of them and didn't really care about them, right? They all fell in line with the regime. They got regime pilled, as I like to say, as the bomb started falling. So there is no opposition in Iran anymore. So who are they fucking talking about? If maybe if like the CIA is trying to like fund or trying to find like a single group in the IRGC that's willing to like throw their country under the bus for power or something. I don't know. But like there at this point in time, there literally is no opposition to try and prop up from the CIA perspective, as far as I know.
Want to go down with the ship, maybe particularly the conventional military, but they need resources, they need communications, they may need weapons, and at least from what we know publicly, and we may not know everything, but it doesn't look like we're doing very much of that, and that concerns me.
I assure that we're trying our hardest. I assure the CIA is trying its hardest to find people to rise up. It's just that they're failing. So he's saying it doesn't look like we're doing that. No, we're doing it, but we're failing at doing it. The CIA is constantly trying to do this all the time. That's like their only fucking job in this war.
Right. One of the arguments, in addition to regime change, pointed by both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, is how close how close Iran was from being able to manufacture a nuclear weapon. But this is clearly contradicted
Israel's
by the most
like
recent and authoritative intelligence reports. So why suddenly this nuclear threat being bandied around?
Well, I agree. I don't, from what information is public, and again, we may not know it all, I don't think Iran was imminently close to achieving nuclear weapons, but I don't think that's required. I don't think the United States or any other country has to wait until its citizens are in dire peril before taking action in self-defense.
Yeah, you do. That's literally international law. That is international law, is that you are not allowed to attack another country unless there is an imminent threat. Now, I personally think that that's a stupid stupid thing to put in international law because it will obviously be used by countries like America to invade whatever country they want at any point in time that they want by just claiming an imminent threat. However, that is international law. So what the fuck is he talking about? You can't just like be like, actually, there's some arbitrary point in the future, and so that they're going to be dangerous to us. So therefore, we have to go to war with them. Like that's not in the UN Charter, as far as I'm aware.
I'm not sure what prompted Trump in particular to be saying that. Maybe we'll find out more. It goes, what for me is part of the mystery of why he did change his mind to take this very extensive military action against Iran, presumably in aid of regime change, because, as you say, he was against it in the first term. I don't buy the argument that the Israelis somehow tricked him into it. I think Trump had heard these arguments back and forth enough in the first term that there shouldn't have been anything new for him in it.
I don't think that they necessarily tricked him into it, but I do think the entire foreign policy kind of tricked him into it, and that they all probably told him, whoops, all probably told him that it was going to be really easy and really fast. So in that regard, maybe he's stupid, so he's probably just gonna like assume that they're telling the truth, as opposed to me, who assumes that everybody who talks to me is lying. So yeah, I think that to some extent he was like tricked into it, but also like I've said before, like Netanyahu, Mossad, they have pictures of him fucking children in a vault somewhere. So like I do think that that could impact him in some way, like if they said they were going to release it, but I don't necessarily even think they had to do that. But I do think that those pictures exist.
That's what the motivating factor for the policy change was.
Well, without betraying the secrets of the discussions then, when you told him we need regime change in Iran, what was his answer?
Well, he was against it. And in fact, he said publicly in the first term that he wanted to eliminate the nuclear program in Iran and the terrorist activity, but he did not favor regime change. And I suppose one of the reasons is that others in the administration who disagreed with me talked about the Strait of Hormuz, talked about attacks on the Gulf Arabs, and all the many other difficulties that are inherent in an effort at regime change. So they were more persuasive in the first term than I was. But as I say, it's still a mystery to me how Trump changed his mind.
Right. But to your point,
I think that in the first term, he had a bunch of like real actual strategists who told him this is probably going to end in a disaster. Like they probably told him this, what we're experiencing right now is exactly what this is going to look like. If I had to guess, that was what was happening in the first term. And in the second term, all the guardrails were off, and so there was nobody there to tell him the truth, and so he just kind of believed whatever the fuck they said. So that's my interpretation.
How can the administration say it is surprised by Iran's reaction? The Strait of Hormuz attacking neighbors' energy infrastructure. I mean, this was clearly already on the table then and probably decades before.
Absolutely. And so Trump's denials that he knew anything about it or that anybody else foresaw it is just a typical Trump effort to lay the blame off or lay the responsibility off on someone else when he sees that a mistake has been made. I don't have any doubt that the Pentagon at least went through every contingency that they could think of, if for no other reason than to say, here's a contingency and here's how we would deal with it. Maybe Trump wasn't paying attention, or maybe he had something else on his mind. But there's no doubt, both before and I have no doubt, even though I'm not there in the present situation, that he was told of all of this.
Right. You said you don't think that.
I mean, maybe, but I just think his closest advisors aren't letting him hear any actual, like, anybody of intelligence. And also, we're slowly degrading all of our, all of our intelligence departments and like everything as, Trump remakes the American military in his own image or whatever. Like it's all becoming less competent as well. So, yeah, I don't know.
There are that many differences between Israel and the United States. Trump lashed out at Benjamin Netanyahu for bombing a major gas infrastructure shared by Iran and Qatar, despite reporting that the U.S. was actually informed and on board. So do you think there is a rift? Maybe Israel hell-bent on regime change and Trump maybe ready to stop the war because of its economic consequences and its potential political consequences in the U.S.?
Yeah, look, I think Trump could be ready to stop the war at almost any moment. Maybe even as we're speaking, he'll be declaring total victory. And I think there are undoubtedly divisions between Trump and Netanyahu. But
see, I don't even think it crosses his mind. How? Like, what if Iran says, "Nah, we're not done yet"? Then what? You know what I'm saying? Like, they still seem to think that like somehow America is in control of this war. I think this war has taken on a life of its own with relatively equal control to both Iran and America in terms of escalation and de-escalation. I don't think Iran is ready for a ceasefire. I think I've heard before, and I don't know if it'll go this long. This is obviously like the propaganda that they're putting out there, but the midterms is when they said they're going to be done, or like they said they're going to keep this going until the midterms. So that's another 8 months or whatever that they're planning on doing this. So if they keep doing it, the only thing that I could see happening is Trump declaring quote unquote victory, saying the rest is up to this whatever task force that he assigns to the EU and Japan or whatever to go secure the strait, uh, while Iran just while Israel maybe continues to bomb Iran and Iran continues to respond to Israel and continues to attack American military assets in the region. Like we just say, you know what, we're done, we're out of here or something. But I don't think Iran is going to stop
But I think that's
anytime soon.
entirely normal in war. If you look at the history of World War II, divisions between Churchill and Roosevelt on what the priorities ought to be, divisions between Churchill and Roosevelt and de Gaulle on what the priorities ought to be, and yet we managed to get through to success. So with everything at stake, and for Israel, they see it as an existential war too. We shouldn't be surprised that there are tactical disagreements and maybe even larger disagreements. The real question is whether they can hold things together long enough to accomplish whatever it is they want to do. And I think so far that's holding. I thought actually Trump's remarks, even as he was saying he had wished Netanyahu had not struck the Iranian gas terminals, he said, but we're well coordinated, and they moved on from there.
Yeah,
Right.
it's all the double think shit that we have to all parse through as people who live in the modern age. We all have to learn how to understand double think. Uh, Truth is lies, war is peace, all that sort of shit. Orwell said it best. Been a while since I read 1984, but I remember some of them.
Said what is probably lacking is support for the opposition. Some are saying boots on the ground to effectively have regime change in Iran. Do you think that is still a viable option, or do you think this is out of the question?
It's probably going to
given
happen.
all the precedents, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc.?
Well, I think it depends on your definition of boots on the ground. If people mean by that,
words mean nothing anymore, right? That's what I was just talking about. But it's not boots on the ground to just send some boots onto the ground of Karg Island, right? That's not boots on the ground, or to get like a small military outpost on the beach of Iran with some boots on the ground or whatever. That's not actually boots on the ground. You know what I'm saying? It's only when we do something that's like bad or whatever. This is good. But when we do something bad, it's boots on the ground because people don't like to hear that word or whatever. But when we do something good, it actually isn't boots on the ground. This is the fucking, I don't know. I'm trying to explain this to people because this is the world that we're going to be living in for the foreseeable future, where you have to parse out these like rhetorical shenanigans that these people just love to play. You just got to understand what they're trying to do here. It's just words. It's just manipulating words to try and get people to be on board with whatever operations they're planning. And yes, there will likely be boots on the ground. I think that that's probably going to happen. I never trust the words out of these people's mouths. I only trust the military movements that are happening. And I use the words that they say as like a way to uh like to some extent parse, like I think that I can read what they're actually trying to do pretty well, but all of the military movements of the two Mews, as they like to call them, um, like they just indicate that, yeah, we're going to do some sort of like operation boots on the ground style, which will inevitably bleed into a full-blown occupation, as it always does. We are about to be occupying Iran, people. We did it in Iraq and now we're doing it in Iran. One letter, what's the difference, right?
Major
It's a big
assault by
difference, by the
combat
way.
arms, infantry, artillery, armor, an invasion of division plus size. No, I don't see that at all. If by boots on the ground you mean special operators who are probably there already, or relatively small missions for specific tasks, the one that strikes me as most important is at some point securing the enriched uranium, the centrifuges, and other key materials related to the nuclear weapons program. We certainly
That's going to be a
don't
shit
want
show, dude.
those to fall into the wrong hands, really, whether there's regime change or not. Now, that's a difficult, dangerous mission, but the nuclear threat is the most acute that we face, and it's not.
My cat's getting on my lap, but I need to go get some more coffee here in a sec, so she's going to be sorely disappointed.
Not just a question of bombing it from the air, but if we can either make it impossible even for the Iranians to get the material that's buried underground, or secure it in place, or take it out ourselves. One or another of those possibilities.
Oh, whoops.
Right.
Sorry.
If the regime is indeed weakened, we're seeing it decapitated by the day, if I may say, there are some who worry that if it remains in place, if there is not an uprising, it will be a much tougher regime, determined to, go nuclear or build dirty bombs and so on. Is this a serious concern if Trump decides to pull the plug?
Okay.
Yeah, look, this should have been a factor in the decision-making before launching the effort. If you're really going for regime change, you have to acknowledge the risk that if you fail, you will get a more determined opponent than before. And no matter how much destruction...
Why are we just doing Air Force then? Like I said, that's impossible. You can't change regime from the air. It's never happened.
Due to the nuclear program, to the Navy, to the Air Force, to the ballistic missile production facilities, to the backing for the terrorist proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, a regime can rebuild, especially if they can get their oil back out on international markets and get enough finance to get that going again. So I think if
they're still doing that right now during times of war, like
as we say, if you want to get in this, you ought to be in it to win it.
Russia has condemned the war and obviously is losing an ally after Venezuela, after Syria. But could Vladimir Putin see this as an opportunity, not only because of higher oil prices?
Yes, I think he is trying to use the war against Iran to ingratiate himself further with Trump, having in mind keeping Trump on his side in the Ukraine conflict. So a few days ago, last week, I guess, he offered to Trump in a phone call to mediate between the U.S. and Iran, which I think is a hopeless endeavor. And I think Putin probably understood that. But he wanted to say to Trump, see, I'm helping you, or I'm available to help you on the Iran question.
Yeah. Well, this is all incredibly good for Russia. They're gonna get such a windfall in terms of their oil sales across the world because of this, that they will be able to. I mean, I think that they will just keep. I don't know when they're going to be done, honestly. I don't think the lines have been moving that much lately. I haven't been keeping super close track of it or whatever. But I do think Russia feels like they can just do this indefinitely. So it might be another 5-10 years before they decide to end the conflict. But I'm just saying that so like people can like prepare themselves. That might not be going anywhere soon.
And he will try and later make use of that when it comes to negotiations with Ukraine.
Okay, I'm done with Bolton here.